Last week I invited us into saying the loving kindness meditation daily between now and our elections in November. And so on Sundays we will land in that together. So I invite you to center in. Sense your breath. Feel your heart and your hands open and ready to receive. As we begin, by turning our loving kindness and attention inward, I invite you to say in your own mind, in your own heart, the words after I say each line, if you are called to, or just let the sound of my voice wash over you and into that space in your heart. As we remember that prayer doesn't change outcomes, but it definitely changes us. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be free from suffering. May I be well. May I be at peace. May I be joyful. Having received that gift in our own beings, we now turn our attention to someone or someone's dear to us, dear to you. And again, just holding that silent whisper of the words in your own heart as you hear these lines, sending them to someone or those faces that you hold dear. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be free from suffering. May you be well. May you be at peace. May you be joyful. May you across the sea and over the mountains be filled with loving kindness. May you across the sea and over the mountains be free from suffering. May you across the seas and over the mountains be well. Be at peace. Be joyful. And now for the challenging part, to take all that loving kindness that we have soaked in, that we have sent out, and direct that to someone or someones you find challenging, who have hidden their divine essence from themselves, and still we shower them with this: may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be free from suffering. May you be well. May you be at peace. May you be joyful. And may all beings be filled with loving kindness, held in loving kindness, free from suffering, from fear, from violence. May all beings be well. May all beings be at peace, live in peace, and find joy. And so it is. Thank you. Somehow between last Sunday's service, when I invited us to do this daily, and Monday morning the next day, I forgot. I forgot my own invitation. Such is life. But on Tuesday, one of my beloveds called me, weighted by feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, despair. And in that call, Spirit nudged me to remember. And so in our separate homes, on our Bluetooth earbuds, we sat on our own couches, our hearts centering in together, and we unfurled into the words and silences of that beautiful prayer. And because of that reminder from a beloved every day since, I have remembered. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. That's the line from a much-loved poem, Wild Geese, by Mary Oliver. I see a lot of heads shaking. Many of you know that poem. My dear one reaching out to me reminded me to reach inward and to help her reach inward to the voice of love. Doesn't mean I won't forget again here and there, but it is the gift of being on the way, walking this path of beauty, this path of peace, this path of love together in community, our hearts opening into the loving kindness that is our calling. Last week after my talk, a number of people mentioned the lines from John O'Donohue about colluding with despair and how that had really hit home. So here's that passage again in case you weren't here. This is from John O'Donohue, Bless the Space Between Us. And I invite you to think about how this is new thought in a slightly different set of clothing, how our thoughts and our perceptions shape what happens. John O'Donohue writes, "The way you look at things is not simply a private matter. Your outlook acutely and concretely affects what goes on. When you give in to helplessness, you collude with despair and add to it. When you take back your power and choose to see the possibilities for healing and transformation, your creativity, that gift that is from our Creator, our creativity, awakens and flows to become an active force of renewal and encouragement to the world. In this way, even in our own hidden lives, we become powerful agents of transformation in a broken, thank you, Chris, for that poem, in a broken, darkened world. There's a huge force field that opens when intention focuses and directs itself towards transformation. Thank you, Celtic mystic John O'Donohue. I see that passage, which has remained in my imagination this week, in conversation with our vision and our mission. We envision a world transformed through the spiritual awakening of all. And we awaken to and embrace the divine essence of all beings through prayer and service in our community and in the world. How are we seeing things around us? But how are we seeing inwardly to where we are called to be the change? As we imagine the world across the sea and over the mountains, the world right here in our own families, our city, our country, our beloved community, how do we imagine our part in the transformation of the world of ego, shame, fear, greed, and violence into a world where all beings walk freely in beauty, in peace, loving kindness, wellness, and joy? How are we each part of that change we long to see? Part of that transformation? How do we recognize the power we have to see possibilities of healing and to be sources of healing beyond our own comfort zones? That one gets me. Beyond where I am comfortable, I am called to be a source of healing. Howard Zinn writes, "To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. Hopelessness colludes with despair. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many," he goes on to remind us, "where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act," he continues, "in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of present moments. And to live now as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad and greedy and violent, I add, around us, that is itself a marvelous victory. And if we do act in however small a way," and spiritual teachers from Jesus to Buddha, from Emily Cady to Andrew Harvey, remind us of the foundational necessity to pause, to cease acting, in stillness to pray, to discern, to become an open channel for the wisdom and power of the Holy One to move clearly and cleanly in us. Yes, small actions grounded in prayer. That is a marvelous victory. Katie writes in Lessons in Truth, when you withdraw from the world for meditation, let it not be to think of yourself or your failures, but invariably to get all your thoughts centered on God and on your relation to the Creator and upholder of the universe. There is one presence and one power. To align our hearts with the great heart. Let all the little annoying, she writes, and I would add the big despair-inducing cares and anxieties, let them go. And by effort, if need be, turn your thoughts away from them. We talk to God, Katie writes, that is prayer. God talks to us, that is inspiration. We go apart to get still so that new life, new inspiration, new power of thought, new supply from the fountainhead may flow in. And then we come forth to shed it on those around us, that they too may be lifted up. We do not awaken to our spiritual transformation so that we can pat ourselves on the back about how awesome we are. Now, I'm not against you patting yourself on your back and telling yourself you're awesome, because you're awesome. But we do not awaken deeper than our comfort zone for our own sakes, but so that we can shed that light that is our birthright and our call, even when it is not easy. Even when it demands that we must look inward and change some stuff we don't want to change. You notice how I said stuff? You know where I was going with that. Be the change you want to see in the world has become a powerful catchphrase and a beautiful song by our friend Mark Shepard, urging us to take wise action. It's attributed to Gandhi, but here is what he actually said. We but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As I change my own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards me. This is the divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing it is, and the source of our happiness. We need not wait to see what others do. We but mirror the world. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. The way you look at things is not simply a private matter. Your outlook actually and concretely affects what goes on. The future is an infinite succession of present moments, and to live now as we think human beings should live in defiance of all that is bad around us is itself a marvelous victory. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives and the lives of our sisters and brothers around the world whose voices are silenced. If we want more peace in the world, are we making peace in the circles of our own close relationships? Are we adding our voices to those calling for justice? Or is our silence adding volume to those who would oppress the other? If we want a world where all beings are held in loving kindness, are we weeding out our own unloving, unkind thoughts and actions? We talk to God. That is prayer. God talks to us. That is inspiration. I show up here every week hoping that I offer some inspiration, but mostly selfishly to gather inspiration. Our mutuality is what keeps me centered in my own sacred purpose, that makes me look inwardly to say, oh, what have I not yet weeded out, so that I can be a clean vessel when I show up for you. That is all the divine asks of us. There are days when that feels so easy, and there are days when it requires our lifeblood to say yes to being the vessel we are created to be. So here's one little bit of inspiration, maybe an easy way for us to think about how we're walking that path of beauty, how we're showing up in ways that can be simple and yet profound. And this is a poem by John Rodell. When the world goes mad, be wildly kind to everyone. 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 You can't control much, but you control how you treat others in these breaking news, heartbreaking times when nothing feels certain. Let your raw kindness be a certainty. Allow your compassion to become a North Star stamped up in the sky for others to follow back home. Let kindness, let loving kindness, let peace be our North Star. So how is the voice of the Holy One getting through to you these days? Inspiring you to pause, to pray, to act. May all beings be filled with loving kindness, held in loving kindness. May all beings be free from suffering, from fear, from violence. May all beings live with ease, in peace, with joy. And let it begin with me. And so it is. Amen.